Can you feel it? It's summer now. It's Cancer season. Four of Pentacles. That came out in the reading I did 2 days ago. Stability. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why and this one came out in the card pull I did last night. So again, the message I get here is I'm, reading for however much a collective I can connect with over time, but we are still holding ourselves back from being a more stable version of ourselves. More on that. What is this? Page of Swords. I'm going to read about Page of Swords. If I can find it. Thoughtfulness, clarity, curious, restless. Yeah, okay. We're holding ourselves back from our own stability. We have what it takes to set ourselves free. Thoughtfulness, clarity, curious, restless. This restlessness, what I talked about a few days ago with my creativity or anything, if a person has a capability and they don't express it, then it gets to feeling itchy. And what I paused there to acknowledge was a clip from Avatar being inserted into my mind where he's teaching Aang, the Avatar, this wise elder, about the pools and how the water needs to be able to flow from pool to pool. The energy gets stuck. It's a metaphor for the chakras. So there's, this Page of Swords, a restlessness about what to do on a daily basis is what I'm getting. And within that, even like moment to moment, almost like a hyper awareness of how the moments passing in the days that are passing at this time feel. And the way out of that, let's get some advice for continuing on this. Beautiful path of early summertime shifts and changes. How to navigate, what to do. Well, what I'm getting, which is the only advice that anybody ever needs ever, is just be present and sit with the things that come up. But I was talking about this 2 days ago too. There's a need to you can't just sit in inaction, but sit in a way, well, I mean, if you don't know what to do, then that's okay. You don't have to do anything. You can wait until a path becomes clear, as long as you have I think patience in letting that happen, and an ability to both forgive. Three of Pentacles, collaboration. Don't alienate people that might be able to help you right now. Okay. Don't see your journey as being similar to other people's, or find reasons to push people away. You don't have to put extra effort into seeing the best in people, although I think that's a nice way to live. But the advice would be not to do the opposite, where you're looking for or fixating on reasons to be irritated or agitated or annoyed. I had a problem with that this morning because somebody was playing a musical instrument in a improvisational, relaxed sort of way, and I was fine with that. I chose to listen instead of putting my music in or listening to anything else, except somebody else chose to sing along, but there was no way of knowing what the melody was going to do, so there was constantly these anticipated like landing points of wrong notes, and I was just like trying to paint, and found it really irritating. Anyway, I said to myself, I was thinking about how what if somebody else was in that situation? Not like it's a big deal. I was just irritated it happens to everybody. But for the sake of argument and laying something out, I asked myself what I would say to somebody else if somebody else was in that situation. And I would say, just water off of a duck's back. Do not let it bother you. You can selectively kind of like, I'm seeing a catfish being pulled off of the glass of the side of an aquarium, like just pull your attention and your attachment off of that. It's going to take a little bit of force, right? Because it's pulling you in because it's like a splinter in the side, the thorn. Yeah, agitations and restlessness, and there's a need for other people. We're people alive in the world who know other people and have connections, and that is a positive thing. So let it be for confiding, but also getting feedback, honest and good feedback that you trust. It doesn't have to be like a project or a work thing. It can be personal, or it can just be just as simple as having interactions such that you can see the truth of existence, right? The light that lives in someone's eyes, another soul. When you encounter another sentient being able to bounce your own energy off of another interaction, I guess, at its most fundamental level, neutrally, whether or not it's good or bad, not trying to make it anything at all, just experiencing other people. Again, I said before I came to this art residency that I was like, I'm going to be a completely lone wolf and do my own thing. And that's, I mean, it's interesting how every day changes so much, because when you're going to be with people for a short period of time, but you live in fairly close proximity and have a couple, communal activities, you tend to get to know people pretty quickly. And then I also had my birthday yesterday, and it was so incredibly sweet and lovely and magical the way that it was celebrated for me, and the lengths that people went to make me feel special. It was incredibly sweet, and I cried. Not in front of everybody. I cry a lot by myself. Not that it's wrong to cry in front of others, but I don't know them that well. Okay, Ace of Wands. This reminds me, I'm almost bothered by myself for how much I connect certain things that come up to old things, because it's like not everything connects, but like, yes, it does. So excuse me, I'm sorry to be obnoxious like that. If it is obnoxious, but it is what it is. No apologies. What I was saying the other day, I guess why I'm apologizing is because if you don't have the desire to watch any of my other videos, especially because I talk so circularly like this, then it's annoying because you're missing the information. You don't get what I'm trying to refer back to. But the other day I was talking about just trying to, the same way that how do you become conscious of the things that you're not conscious of? You observe patterns in your life, and you ask why, and you sit with discomfort, right? It's almost like there's like an obstacle course, and there's parts of your mind or landmarks, fixtures, essential fixtures in the landscape of your psyche. And if your thoughts start to drive that way, you might kind of just veer the car, your ego, basically, or your conscious mind, or the thing that's active in yourself in order to protect you subconsciously from having to do hard things emotionally, potentially, it will veer you off of that so that you don't have to go there. And so the advice is to be able to go there, not in a self-punishing way, but it almost makes me think about how everybody has something in their memory, or many things, or whatever, that you would think about and feel cringeworthy about. And I mean, I certainly do and have. And what would it take to just go think about, let yourself cringe, really review things as they are and things as they've happened, so that you can, it's okay at the end of the day, right? Like, I think again about being the wise advisor to the self, how you would speak kindly to a child. Like, if there is some type of classroom dispute, a teacher would lovingly, hopefully, at the end of kind of being like, well, what happened to your kids? They would say, it's okay. We just want to make sure. And then they would impart the lesson again. But a good teacher or parent always helps children know if they mess up, that it's always going to be okay, and that they're still going to love them. Or else we take our bad behavior and our screw-ups deeply seriously, to the point where we're afraid to mess up in our adult lives, and that can create crippling anxiety and unrealistic standards for perfection. That's reinforced by a whole slew of things right now, a whole slate and slew of ridiculous, distorted perceptions of reality. I love these gold cards. So I'm saying that because just the same way as you would go about unfurling and unraveling anything that's holding you back and blockages at this time, there's this beauty and this simplicity, a beauty within the simplicity of trying to, right? Because the question was, how do we temper, manage, and deal with these days passing, where I've come to assess this as a time of transition, right? And I see a rock climber. Actually, I see Alice in Wonderland falling down the rabbit hole with all the teacups flying by. Like, you want to reach out to find a handhold, but there isn't one there. In fact, though, again with the Buddhist quote, Thich Nhat Hanh, Pema Chodron, find a way to be comfortable within the uncomfortable. How do we do that? You come back to what the things are, people, places, what the things are that you feel passionate about, that make you genuinely want to, apply yourself. Oh my God. It just started raining, which I'm thrilled about, but I have an oil painting outside on a table because I was trying to get it dry, because I can't travel home with it if it's not dry, and it has a ton of paint on it because I used a palette knife. And I'm wondering, oil and water don't mix. It'll just become even cooler. It's an abstract and it's small and it's inconsequential. If it was a figure or a portrait, I would be running out there right now, but I don't have the will. But this is about it's easy in life to be lethargic because we're very placated, and a lot of the things that we eat, processed foods, a lot of the things that we consume in any modality of consumption bog us down and honestly clog us. And so it's easy to have a way about us that is lethargic, right? A lot of people are just kind of chronically tired or always have a low-grade headache and whatnot. It's very important when I notice that I'm genuinely moved to do something and I want to do something. One could argue that there's no better feeling than having an idea and wanting to do something. So come back to the smallness, right? Not being like, well, what do I want to do? If it's today, if it's in life. I'm seeing it as a macro and a micro because of what I talked about in the beginning of this video, where it was like, there is this kind of like, we're in kind of a strange liminal space between something that has ended and Ace, right? A new beginning. That's not really how I'm taking this to mean, because I'm seeing this as like singular point zero of thought. So Ace, Wand, idea, or origin of passion. So confusing. No, to simplify it, what resonates with you, what lights you up, but also just like, what do you want to do? It doesn't have to be a complicated thing to figure out, because you can just like say yes or no just a little bit, like each itty bitty fraction of yesness or no-ness can happen like by the millisecond. You know, you can continue to adjust how you're feeling about things as your life passes you by. And then with the other hand, you're adjusting like the other dial of like, so then what do I want to do given this, everything that's happening around me, my life, whatever it is, given this, what do I want to do? And not push yourself, right? Because sometimes we might need to be sitting in a space of contemplation in order to come up with this. And the other thing, although I'm not, you know, seeing it right now, is like, we tell ourselves that we want to do certain things, but we know how you can tell if it's not, you know, aligned, or if it is if it drains you further or if it gives you energy. And if it drains you further, then you're going to still be in like, you know, a restless inability to set yourself free, because your body and your intuition and your soul, right, the cues that we have, our bodies and our emotional compasses, we're ignoring those cues and repeating cycles. But what I'm getting here, I feel like this summer of 2023, there are cycles that the universe is not going to let us repeat anymore. A person might say, you're just bad at shuffling. It's not cool that the same cards keep coming out day after day. But I can't be that bad at shuffling, because I do it like a few times. Shuffle as much as I think I need to. Yeah, so determination, just laughing because it came out yesterday. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think I said something about, you have to be kidding me. This has come out too, 2 days ago. I mean, there's only so many cards, but there are some that have not come out, and multiple cards that have persisted. 6 of Pentacles, okay. There's some new energy. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, this is interesting. I'm actually seeing this duo, 6 of Pentacles and 9 of Wands, kind of like this duo, right? And what's cool about it is that this side is Pentacles, this side is Wands. This side is peaceful and collaborative, and this side is combative. Okay? So, yeah, there's a need to be determined and almost stubborn about being like, I can. Stubborn with yourself, right? With your own inner critic about being like, I can change certain things, even though certain things are hard to change. Even though I've done something a certain way for a certain amount of time, I can change, and I will do what I need to do in order to get there. But don't bring that sort of tough love, because I talk about like being kind to yourself, having a nurturing voice, but you also have to discipline yourself, right? And give yourself hard truths and not, you know, there's like a joke about like, I'm just gonna treat myself, you know, but then like you're always treating yourself. That's no matter what it is. And it's like, you know what? You can stand to do some hard work. You can't just live in a constant state of treating yourself and giving yourself a pass, you know, or even if it's not like treats, if it's like, I'll just have one more like drink or cigarette, or I'll just call that toxic person that's bad for me one more time, right? Those types of treats are giving yourself a pass. There's a difference between turning a blind eye, right? That's what I was talking about with like veering off of the obstacle course of like blind spots, or like things that you won't let yourself confront. Because sometimes those things are entirely hidden from other people, right? So you're the only one who can even if you have friends or confidants or a therapist, or you know, I hope that everybody has at least one person they can talk to, and if they don't, that they have a cat or a dog or a goldfish and they talk to that animal, because I think self-reflection is important, and metacognition, and having these, you know, parallel lanes of traffic going to help us, I think, just be more dialed in to life. And so here, this is generosity, right? Kindness for other people and empathy and extending that, because what you give is what you get. And it's also healthy for you, right? When you hold space for somebody else in a healing manner, you benefit from that because you're part of that energy. And this would be that defensiveness, right? The other day I was just talking about keeping people out, right? So it's like, don't keep people out. Let people in, right? Pentacles. Other people are part of the keys to our success. And this swirling energy, like I'm seeing the Eight of Wands again from yesterday, although it's not here. And I'm seeing them because it's like this type of, like even his little pouty frown. This type of attitude is what keeps us stuck. And also the Four of Pentacles. So we have the Three of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles in the latter part of the reading. Four of Pentacles, she's almost like coveting this, right? And the Four of Pentacles does represent stability, having options, being able to do things. And that is what we're trying to attain right now. But in order to attain it, we have to, you know, have clarity of intention, be honest with ourselves, not enable ourselves, nurture ourselves enough, right? You don't want to be like punishing and then self-sabotaging. It's just a very fine line to just be real with yourself, and not be mean to yourself, but not give yourself all the free passes in the world, because then you'll remain stuck and not be able to navigate that obstacle course, you know, just blow right through all the traffic cones, knock them aside, and have no little hoops to jump through. Be able to survey the land of your own ways, or ways of thinking, ways of being. And that's funny because I just completely inadvertently, without thinking or noticing, took the Four of Pentacles out. I mean, I know that I showed it to the camera and whatnot, but in the place between the Eight of Swords and the Page of Wands, I put the Knight of Swords up with that energy, as if to say, like, yes, it's about stability, but I also see her as being right alone with the pentacle, clutching it, almost coveting it. And it's important to extend not only emotional generosity, but what you can to others, you know, because we have this, if we have this lack mentality of like, I don't have enough for myself, therefore I don't have enough for anybody else, then we'll never have enough for ourselves or anybody else. And it's also bringing me back to this, the Ace of Wands, where it doesn't have to be complicated in order to try to find a good way forward. You just have to come back to like, what do I want? You know, and that can be like really primal, like what feels good in this exact immediate little millisecond. Because it's like, do I have what I need right now? Do I have shelter? water and food if I desperately need it, I'm not hungry, but do I have what I need right now? Then in the macro, micro, right, the flash bulb analogy that I've used on occasion, then you have everything that you need in general. We project lack. We fear not having enough. It's why people buy too many groceries and end up wasting them and doing all sorts of things based off of lack mentality. And the ironic part about it is that they're never lacking, but they're always fearing that they're lacking. So it's dysfunctional. What else can we see? More, please. What I'd like to be able to speak on in a clearer, more succinct way that has a little bit of a twist on it, like something new that I haven't already said, because I know how redundant the things that I've been talking about are for the past few days, but I think that it's because there's different ways to say the same thing, and it is pretty simple right now. Just, excuse me, time of transformation and change, and being the only person who can do that for yourself, being real with yourself, being excited, allowing yourself to be excited about the things that you want to, like how I was talking about not having a piano to play, and instead of feeling like I just wish I did, like it sucks that I don't, I just felt excited for a time when I would. So that also to say, sometimes we're just afraid to let ourselves want things, because then the next thought right next to it that a lot of people go to is like, but I just can't, it's like desperation. Like, how am I going to do that? I can't do that. Like, what would that take? Like, and the passion, it's almost like, even if we have a great idea, we can't often sustain the passion enough to motivate us to execute things on a constant level, because goals take dedication, absolutely. But I said kind of because it's like, I was thinking no matter how small, no matter how large, that's a kind of, it's like that was death. Larger goals take longer sustained discipline and attention, which requires energy, your energy applied to that dedication. Wow. Ooh, wow. Okay, let's break this down. So I wanted to be able to say it in another way. The lesson, the idea, the stuff that's happening right now, and say a little bit more even. We do have a king and queen pair, King of Cups and Queen of Wands. Again, like coming out right after Six of Pentacles. This is about generosity, right? And being in a loving space for yourself and for others. Being strong within yourself and having restraint if we need to, around Four of Cups, meditative state, looking within. So yeah, I'm actually going to kind of amend what I said. It's like we're falling down the rabbit hole. We don't really have the normal handholds available to us. Like, there's some teacups flying by, but we don't really know what to do with that. And this is about being real with yourself, is how I'm interpreting the Knight of Swords. It's cautionary against moving too fast, because I feel like I'm almost seeing a Rube Goldberg machine where the little marble will bounce off of a peg and then it perfectly lands at the right degree to catapult the thing, and then everything connects. It's like these cards are like that. And it does feel like this big thing is happening. Like, right, I said we're in a liminal space. We're in between the end of something and a beginning that hasn't quite yet started. And I had cut the deck earlier and the death card was there. And it's like, with every death, there's a rebirth. This is the nature of the seasons, and everything's in existence's life cycle. You know, things don't really die and then never come back. Like, even if all the whatevers die, the bees, God forbid, all the bees are dying. Maybe they'll come back one day, you know what I mean? Like, things that are extinct, of course, there are certain things that have been extinct. That's a tangent I don't need to get on. So, just kind of relating back to the generosity of heart, that's for the self, and it's for others, so that we stay like engaged and realistic in the world around us, stay connected, keep our energy flowing, and also just like, you know, small acts of kindness and generosity. Like, actually, I see it's almost like the world's really tough right now. A lot of people are going through some really hard stuff. And I will say this, like, I am very abundant, very lucky, and very privileged. I have a truly amazing life, and I'm very lucky, but I am constantly fighting very tough battles and going through very hard things that I take issue with trauma bragging, and that's something that when I was younger I would do. And I still sometimes have to work on it. It's not about what you've been through, it's who you are as a result. That's not to say suppress things and never talk about them. I'm saying process them, but you don't need to ever prove that you've been, you know, through hard things, or ever try to get people to feel sorry for you, right? Or whatever it is. And a lot of us do that because we feel sorry for ourselves because we haven't healed from it, and we're, you know, confused or traumatized. And I'm just saying, there's always so much more than meets the eye to every single person. And when people are absolute assholes, you have to just know that they're going through it, you know. Everybody have compassion and empathy for everybody's predicament. Because the world is tough right now. And it's important, again, like I said, the circulatory nature of being around other people and their energy. It's not a time to be dishonest and like abandon things or people. Like, hold up your end of the bargain, right? To yourself, to the people in your life. What does that mean? Do you have to text some people back, you know? Have you been leaving people on red? Support the people in your life. Let your siblings know that you care about them, and your parents, you know, hopefully everyone's alive and well in your circle, and you have people, friends that you can express gratitude for. The things that we do for each other, you know, it's almost like when we do things for other people, we always think it's never enough, but the amount of impacts that someone's actions can have on us, like the people treating me with such love after only knowing me for just a few days, it can really affect people. And by that logic, you have to know that even if you do small things for people, that's enough. You know, you're enough, they're enough, we're all kind of enough. We just have to be honest with ourselves and come from that healed place of like, we, you know, are you doing enough? Are you honest enough with yourself to not steal narratives, is what I just heard. So just a form of lying to yourself. Everybody, I think, is guilty of this at one point or another, especially because of how the mind, again, this kind of goes back to like trauma and our brains rewiring themselves so that we don't have to kind of like face the truth, or how that plays into oversharing. They say that oversharing is a result of trauma because you don't know how to hold the complexities of your own stuff that you've been through, and it takes time to be able to release through that. So don't fall victim to the way that your mind may retell events in a way that is artificial in order to protect you from the truth. Because swords, right, communication, it's like this thief is stealing these swords. It also goes back to lack mentality and how people will, like during the pandemic when everybody bought up toilet paper. I'll just tell you something funny. I was like, I guess I should do that too. I don't know. And I couldn't really find any. I don't think I ever went without toilet paper. But I was like, if there's not going to be any, then I need to buy some. And so there wasn't any toilet paper. I go online, I find some on eBay. It's going to ship from China. It was $69 for like 12 rolls of toilet paper. And I was like, in this economy, in these times, I guess that's what I'm working with. And so I ordered it and it didn't come for like 7 months. And when it finally arrived, it was in like a mailer, like not even a box, like this slim mailer, no bigger than an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of computer paper. And I opened it, and it took me like a good 10 minutes to be like, what the fuck is this? What did I order? Because they didn't have like a cardboard center tube or anything. It was just like these wound up like strange one ply. I still have it because I was like, this is phenomenal. I need to save these and use these in an art piece. And like once it registered, once I realized what I was looking at, and then it had cost me $69. I absolutely had a meltdown laughing because just the absurdity. And I share that because it's like, we can be, as a people, we can be driven to do insane things. Collectively, our brains can be driven to do insane things, and you can't just steal away, pick and choose pieces of the truth. We have to be bold enough to hold the whole thing. And that is very frightening. It's very intimidating. We don't know if we can go there, but there's nothing in life, no small or big situation, whatever it is, that's in front of you that you can't handle. It's like if you're following Google Maps and it's like you just keep going this way, and then there's like fog, and you're like, well, I can't see, so I simply can't drive through the fog. Like I have to go back, but you can't go back for some reason. I don't know. In the analogy, it's like a disappearing road. Okay, so you can't go through. So you just sit there, looking into the fog, sitting in the car, and like there's no other route. Google Maps isn't going to reroute you. The analogy's like, because now I'm like, well, yeah, say you put it in reverse. There is a road behind you magically, even though I just said it falls away and it disappears as soon as you leave each square foot of pavement. But no, you do go a different direction. Then what will happen is it will be foggy over there too. So eventually you will have to drive through the fog, right? And that's not how life works. That's not how people are. A lot of people spend their whole lives ignoring things and not healing at all. And in the analogy, right, what would that look like? On the other side of the fog, it's actually really sunny. It's beautiful. There's music playing. I'm seeing balloons and like cotton candy. Actually, I mean, who knows what your paradise is like? That's not what I want. In mine, I want, well, we won't go there right now, but anyway, you would never see that if you don't drive through the fog. So you could be hanging out over there, and what you do is anxiously drive around looking for a way that doesn't require having to drive through the fog. And so the point is, people spend their whole lives in a lower energetic state that's not rewarding or fulfilling or nearly as vivid and saturated in technicolor and beautiful, right? The fullest extent. I need to adjust myself, but pardon. Not living life to the fullest, basically, right? Because you do have to feel lows in order to have highs. Lows are unavoidable. Unfortunately, in this life. Interesting conversation we got into last night, myself and some of the other beautiful minds and artists and makers in this residency, talking about how, this goes back to what I mentioned the other day in a video about this book that they wrote called Interruption, where a lot of people believe that you have to go through great tragedy or suffering to be able to make anything as an artist that's worthwhile. And I sort of agree with it. I mean, tragedy and suffering changes you, but I don't like the idea that you need to have suffered to be able to create. So I'll just put a pin in that. That's just something actually, it makes me think about the fine balance I was talking about, where it's like, be tender and gentle with yourself, give love, to others. Don't be too kid glove with yourself though, right? To the point where you're not changing any of your behavior or just driving around not wanting to kind of take a leap of faith and go through the fog. It's not that hard to understand, and I know it's probably irritating if anybody has watched to this point in time in the video because it's so redundant, but it's important to explain and re-explain. But I'm gonna wrap up because I'm gonna go get my nails done. I think I found a spot. Okay. So the artist. Oh, you know what I wanted to talk about as well? I talked about the King of Cups, but I didn't really show the Queen of Wands. So, creativity again, passion, being able to draft up new ideas and grow through adversity. Two of Wands. Focus, decisions, discovery, and planning. With the artist, okay, I'm going to read this. The artist is the vessel of creation. This card signifies mankind and shows when you need to open to the knowledge that is available if you stop and set aside the distractions of the human condition and listen. So this is visionary energy within our own lives, new interpretations. I love how much creative energy is here. It's truly beautiful. And there's a really nice, good balance of major arcana, swords, wands, and pentacles here. We only have 2 cups cards. And again, it's that loving heart, What's really beautiful about the frequency of love is that all you have to do is connect with it in your heart chakra. Just allow yourself to feel good and at peace. And that's enough, right? If you do that a little bit every day, it will heal you. That's what this guy's doing. He's not like the guy with the cups yesterday who was crying about the 3 that had spilled, not noticing the 2 in the back. No. Right? This is like a little angel cup. He's got what he needs. It's not being like sneaky and isolated, right? It's okay to take time out because the rest of his time is filled with creating, Working with others, supporting others. When you offer energy to others, then you offer, you take in energy from the universe to recharge. Or I shouldn't say that. People recharge in different ways. I believe that regardless of how you're wired, there is like an animalistic, like an energetic truth around like everybody needs time alone. I think when people are like, oh, I like recharge around other people. Like, I'm not an extrovert. I'm an extroverted person, and I'm relatively outgoing, but I identify strongly as an introvert. And I don't even think those terms are really accurate, because, well, I don't need to go off on that tangent. I think that sometimes when people think they're extroverts, they're actually just scared to be alone and sit with themselves. We also have the Emperor, and we have Two of Swords. The Emperor is masculine energy, the father. He is able to calm chaos and offer authoritarian guidance. He exudes the traits of leader, protector, and provider, but can be ruthless if disagreed with. Structure, dominance, success. There's a lot of powerful energy here. It's almost like the restlessness within ourselves is flaky. I'm getting like a synesthesia, like seeing like the itchiness, the feeling of the energy is like a I'm laughing because of the video of an old couple, and he's trying to pronounce buttery flaky crisp, and he keeps messing it up, and she's like, Dawn, or whatever his name is. If you haven't watched it, look it up. It's called Buttery Flaky Crisp, and it's on the internet. No, okay, so like a butterfly hatching out of a cocoon, these little flakes like phyllo dough or pastry dough. It's shelling off at this time as we go through this tunnel of transformation. I genuinely don't know how long this time of transformation will be. I think it's always, I see spirals, it's always done every day, right? You're never gonna get there. It's always happening. There is something in particular happening right now that has to do with change, but the mindset that we need to have is like each and every day is enough. The cycle is complete when the sun goes down, the sun comes up, a new day starts. It's not a time to fixate on like, well, how long will it take? Because who knows? It's not even fair to talk about these big transits in our lives with that kind of narrow-minded thinking, especially because we're all sort of, well, entirely living completely different lives and realities. It's actually miraculous that there is collective energy, right? We all are connected, but the manifestations in the form of all of our unique lives are completely, uniquely different thumbprint, snowflake expressions of that collective energy. That's why it's important to talk about things like this, because people can heal together when we find understanding within shared and common experiences. I think that's why I'm being moved to pull so many cards, is because every day I feel different, and I'm like, it's the same thing, but I have different things to say about it. I think, wait a second. Oh, yes. I haven't necessarily paid attention to the numerology or any synchronicities with that, but I think I'm going to take that to mean that I'm just not meant to at this point. So, yeah, where do we go from here? I'm laughing because I see like this and this, just like blindfolded, swords. She's a little less stuck than she is though, right? That woman could totally get one of those swords with one of her hands. The way that her elbows are being confined, the whole thing. I believe that she could wriggle free, she has to work a little bit harder. This woman's like posted up, She's got the she's got the swords laid across. I'm getting a whole sort of like download thing. I don't know if I want to share it or not. I will, because it's a message that's coming through, but sometimes I'm like, it's going to take so long to put this into words. I basically am seeing it as a time of great faith, again with Alice in Wonderland and the tunnel, or her falling into a new space. That flaky energy. The reason why I brought up the buttery flaky crisp and the cocoon before I continue with this is that with the Emperor, this great strength, right? There is creativity and a sense of nurturing, but from a collective level, maybe it is the divine masculine energy of the world, or of the collective psyche, that's being worked on or affected right now, because we haven't had a healthy expression of that at a large scale level. But of course they work and they heal in tandem, so that's why, you know, there's powerful energy here with both male and female, the two sides of the yin yang, and well-roundedness. What I was going to say with the Two of Swords is that these, for me, look like wings, or if you imagined her as having angel wings or butterfly wings, you could, I've been painting a lot, so when I've been sitting and painting a lot, I see very, very differently. My eyes, the way I'll break down like proportions and things, because I've been fixated, it's like how when you've been in a different country, your brain can do the language a little bit more easily, and then the language recall fades away when you go back home. I get into a painting mode where I'm like just seeing a lot in everything, I guess, is a good way of putting it. If anybody's an artist, then they know exactly what I mean. And it's reminded me of a painting that I did, the notion that these could be wings, because I painted an angel by request for the energy healer that I mentioned the other day, Emily, Archangel Uriel of the golden ray with yellow light, white light, gold light. And for some reason, the way that I painted that in channel was that the wings were in front, like they were like mounted on like the chest of the angels. Strange, because I know that that's not how angels are. That's simply how I painted it. And she requested that I paint another painting and put the wings on the back. And I found it silly, because I was like, why didn't I put the wings on the back? And what I'm getting at is that I see, like, think about a bird. If it's flying, its wings are out or they're in back. But think about like an owl posted up. Its wings, you know, they come into the side, or like I see Dracula with his cape when he's all like human Batman looking, about to jump off the balcony and take flight. Or what's her name? The woman from Spirited Away. Alibaba, that can't be right. Alibaba's is a restaurant. Anyway, I'm seeing this as those wings, you know, that belong spread in flight. I'm seeing them as folded over and in the form of these swords. Okay? And it's not like you need to be flying, right? If you've ever seen that movie, I think it's just called Birds, or maybe it's called The Great Migration. But there's a movie about how perilous the migration journeys of various birds are, and I was sobbing when I watched that movie in the theaters. Oh my God, it was heart-wrenching to watch. I mean, they try so hard and they go so far. They work so hard on their migration, and so many of them die, and it just opens your eyes to how humans are affecting the planet and killing off species and making it hard for animals to do what they need to do and what they're designed to do. But we are not birds. We can't be flying all the time. We're not on a migration, right? It's okay to fold up your wings and sit if you need to. Two of Swords is about intuition. It's about having a stalemate energy, because, you know, she's in this trapped state and there's a stuckness. But with intuition, right? Because they're different. It's a different level of stuckness. And this one for me, Two of Swords energy, is by far more akin to this type of peace. And I said that before with things in balance, right? The need to reflect, bounce your own experience off of another person, even if you just walk by another human soul. I think interacting with people and corroborating versions of reality with minor interactions or long heart-to-hearts, it's up to you, is important. It's also important to recognize, again, with the equal balance of Pentacles, Wands, and Swords and Major Arcana, and then a couple cups in this reading. That's like elements, right? Air, fire, earth, water. We as humans, and why we are of the physical world. Our bodies are physical, but our spirits are non-physical. And our energy, therefore, that inner quality, right? The soul, whatever it is, this thing that they can't put into words. Where does the soul live? Where does consciousness live? That is in the world of elements in order to have its time or its life, right? When a person dies, there's no more soul or energy, but the physical body's still there. And what I'm getting at is, as humans in this life, in this spiritual landscape, and this, by the way, I meant to say that the artist, right, is looking at that, what I call the landscape of the psyche, and like sketching it, right? This ties into what I'm doing with like drawing from life and observation and getting back into painting. It's all connected. I see this land as not only is he bold enough to look at it, because it takes patience to draw something. I get antsy, I get restless, right? And have this kind of like, I want to go play. I don't know what I'm doing. Not that I'm not studied and capable of committing myself and making great works, but there's this other restlessness involved. It takes dedication. So my point with the obstacles in our mind, or the blind spots that are holding us back, the things that we don't want to consider, the things that we don't want to have to look at within ourselves and heal, yada yada. Not only does it take, like, I guess, courage, discipline, and focus and willingness and like patience to look at all, but to sit there and have the patience to, you know all of that so intimately that you could replicate it, that you could draw it, and it would look just like it. And again, that's not fixating in an unhealthy way, to deeply know yourself, your own mind, why you are the way you are, kind of think about your own experiences and, right, connect things like one would if one was drawing a building. You'd make the lines connect. It's not fixating in an unhealthy way, because that pencil's never in the same spot for too long. It's creating something. So as your mind traces over the lines, the details, the moments of your life, you're refamiliarizing yourself with the truth, right? You're not playing around with missing details or false or stolen narratives about certain things. Again, that's why this criticality is here. This brutal honesty, right? And it's, again, you don't have anything to feel bad or guilty about when you release yourself from the fear of like being wrong, or being shamed. And how does one do that, right? Or when you release yourself from anything that, like, you know, trying to figure out who the real villain was in a certain story or situation. What if all parties were equally going through it and really just have the compassion and the grace to release that type of, because that's not going to yield anything, right? This will. My thing with the elements, I was like, you know, you can't be all swords, you can't be all pentacles, you can't be all water. Your body is of the, it's got to be a little bit of all of it in order to be healthy and balanced. You have to be emotional, you have to think, you have to speak and communicate, you have to, I think, be creative. I think that's part of the essence of life. Some people don't think they're creative, but life is inherently creative. Living is inherently creative. We just live in a society that dampens originality and sparks of creativity, right? It makes me think of like the Waldorf schools versus the traditional schooling system. We could be doing so many things for our children that inspire them. I really can't wait to see the movie Elemental, and I'll probably, I love kids' movies. I do not and will never consider myself a Disney adult. I don't quite know what it means. I mean, it means different things in different circles, but it's like, whatever. It's more so, I like to see how concepts are communicated to kids, because sometimes I take issue with it. Especially the programs from that I saw when I was young, to watch again and be like, this is really wrong. But today, sometimes I watch things and it's like, this is kind of beautiful. Like that movie Inside Out. Communicating to children some actually fairly complex concepts. And I have a lot to say about elemental energy. The fact that, you know, are they good geniuses or are they bad geniuses? Who made this movie and what are they trying to say? Right? Because I like anything that can basically encourage a child to suspend disbelief and go outside and believe in magic. And it will only serve them as they age and wisen up and become an adult if they know how to revel in the beauty of like nature and existence and the world, and connect with nature because of elemental energy. I'll do a different video sometime about elemental energy. I'd like just one more card. I can't believe it's an hour long. It's just crazy. But that's why I did this, because I love to talk and just ramble. That's what this is. I notice that I keep like thinking there's something wrong with it today, because that's, I don't know, just my own self-judgment, or like I forget why. I get so funny with the idea, like it's not a big deal. I can just talk, record videos, and post them. Whatever comes out, comes out. Whoever finds them, finds them. There doesn't have to be more to it. Yes, I could make shorter videos, like algorithm, YouTube. I can't be bothered to do it right. Of course, I would hope that if somebody would like my video or subscribe to my channel, but you don't have to if you don't want to, you know? That's none of my business, to be honest. This is my business and I'm doing it. My. I believe these are 2 cards that came out yesterday again. This is so funny. It's in my studio. I have to show a sketch that I made this morning. It was a doodle and it looks just like this hair. And it's making me think about how images can linger in the mind and kind of pop up subconsciously. How things can linger. It's just a doodle that I was doing when I was having my morning coffee on the terrace. And temperance has come back up, okay, right? So again, with like the passage of time, it's possible that people are having anxiety in this time of uncertainty, but you know, she doesn't actually look too bad, right? She has a faith and a knowing, And that's what's going to, if you can connect with something inside, like I said, if you can just kind of choose to feel good, even if you have to daydream totally to get there, not in an escapist way, but just conjure a little bit of like, you know, love and feeling good in yourself and in your heart, and just sit in it. And I, with all the colors and the visions and the stuff, I would say, like, you know, let it bloom and give it a color and give it a feeling. Is it warm? Is it tingly? Is it like a soft glow with no definition? Does it have more like beams and rays of light? How are those? Like, are those different colors? Infinite options. Infinite options. You could be surrounded by, you could be like sitting in a neon pom-pom. I have a spider visitor. I think it's unfair that I keep talking about like foxes and hummingbirds and lizards and spiders and not showing any of them. So I'm going to do better with that, which would imply that I should show you the spider, but it's not that cool. It's a pretty standard spider. Hey. With the passage of time, what I was going to say is, with the passage of time and the anxiety that may come with that, a way to release that and feel better is to remember it's just, you're just, you know, only ever at a certain point in this continuum, you know, and once you get to there, you're gonna go back. It's Wheel of Fortune stuff. It's what I was saying about like things don't just die, you know. It's not just fog. If you drive into the fog, you're not just gonna, you know, you'll never know unless you keep going. And people think that they're living their lives, but all they're doing is driving around finding different ways to not do the work, I guess. And you are living your life, right? But I see it as like the diseased electron. That's pretty harsh. I'm not calling anybody a diseased electron ever. I have a lot of compassion for why there's suffering in the world and why people are the way that they are. A lot of like, it's crazy. Life is so crazy. People have been through insane things, and we've all been through such different things. But from almost like a neutral vantage point of like seeing biology, or like mitochondria, or like, you know, the electron, I said diseased electron, it's got a path or a pattern that it goes in, except through quantum entanglement, electrons can be located in multiple places at once. So never mind. But what I'm trying to say is that for a part of a cell or an organ in a body, it's got a duty. And if it acts out of character, it causes disease in the body or dysfunction. Same with certain syndromes that people can be born with. It is because of a mutation, or in some cases, I don't actually know about this, that results in a, you know, dysfunctional manifestation of what the healthy expression of that would be. So it's not that you can't drive around in the car. You don't have to do any of anything when it comes to healing, but it's all about optimizing energy flow. And it could be as simple as thinking of it as, you know, removing the seaweed from the chakra pool so that the water can flow, or just tightening up the screw in the car so that it's a restorative thing. And it makes me think about life cycles again. You're either in the flow, or you're creating blockages and stagnancy. There's no other option. And life and energy wants to flow. So that's why the saying is, go with the flow. Because in order to go with the flow, say you were fighting a river. It takes a lot of force to resist being swept up with the river. In order to be swept up in the river, it actually requires release, less effort. And that sounds scary because you don't want to be, you know, swept up in the river. You might drown, but like, wait, you can swim. These are wings. You can fly. She can cut herself free. this is what I said before about like, there will be nothing along your path that you can't handle if it's on your path. That's the way life works. It keeps getting harder and scarier, right, as time goes on, because we think we can't do things because it's a version of yourself that you haven't been yet who ends up handling it. When you handle something new, you become the version of yourself who can handle it because you handle it. You have to trust that you will rise to the occasion for yourself. And if you don't trust that you can or that you will, then you won't try. And if you try and it doesn't go the way that you think, you're still handling it, right? It's all about the flow instead of stopping, continuing. And how do you do that? By having faith. It doesn't mean that you have to move all the time. Continue. It's all about the energy, which is why the elements in the different suits in tarot are important. Letting it flow doesn't mean, always being in motion. It means responding. Excuse me. All right, I'm gonna cut the deck. 6 of Cups, sweet. Nostalgia and connection and love and past life energy. Yay, I love her. The Queen of Cups. Yeah, so that's nice. Finally, at the end of the reading, we have like a balanced pair, and I see this as masculine, feminine polarity, as in a balancing of the scales, as in harmony, but also, right, just how I had to pull so many other cards in order for this to happen. They go together, but it took time and patience, as it will during this time in our lives, for things to come full circle. That's a good stopping point, because if I don't stop, I just won't. Have a fabulous day.